Welcome to Universally Judged with Siera Burchell. On the Universally Judged podcast, we share the stories that you haven't heard from pageant title holders, models, content creators, and actors. In each interview, our guests share a behind-the-scenes look at their life and the lessons they've learned along their journey. This podcast is created in collaboration with Dive Through, a mental wellness company that helps people dive through what they're going through.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Universally Judged. Today we are going to be talking to Olivia Jordan. Olivia was Miss USA 2015. She was the second runner-up at Miss Universe. She is also a model, an actor, and she has overcome some personal challenges that we talk about in this episode. She is such a ray of light in life in general, especially on social media. I cannot wait for you guys to listen to what Olivia has to say. I think you are going to love this episode. Everyone, welcome Olivia Jordan, Miss USA 2015, model, actress, motivational woman. You are so incredible for so many reasons, and I want to set the scene for what I always think of when I think of you. Most people don't know much about Miss Universe, but they do know about the wrong crowning of Miss Universe 2015. You were the second runner-up, and every time I think of that, I think of you being on stage beside Pia Wurtzbach. You were encouraging her, saying, "You're the winner, you were the one," and kind of pushing her along to go to the front of the stage. You were crying like you were the winner. To me, that just shows how supportive you are of other women.
Thank you. That is just such a surreal moment. That was like an out-of-body experience that like I didn't even know how I was reacting. And I'm glad that you like appreciate where I was coming from. There's, I think, a lot of people that thought that like I'm very expressive facially, and I think there was a lot of people that thought that I was like rooting for Pia over Ariadna, which was not the case. Like I just was standing next to Pia, and she was in shock and was like, "What are they saying?" Just because it was like such a whirlwind, and I got to be that person that was like, "You're Miss Universe."
That is so cool. That gives me goosebumps because
So
how many
surreal.
people can say, I mean, that is a crazy moment in Miss Universe history. So for you to be that person to say, "Yep, you're the winner, you're the one," like that is so crazy. So speaking of pageants, how did you get into pageantry? How did you enter the pageant world?
I've always watched pageants. I've just been like that, that fan. And it was always like separate from me. I never thought that I could or would do it. I did ask my mom like as a teenager, and she was like, "No." My mom's like this, like she like doesn't wear any makeup, and she like doesn't really like wear form-fitting clothes. Like she just was like, "No, you're not doing that." And so when I moved to LA, when I was like 21 and was, trying to hack it as a model and actor, it was hard. And so I would literally like scroll the little casting network that they would say all the auditions that are coming up. And one of the things that rolled through was for Miss California USA. And I was like, interesting.
No way.
Maybe I could do that. And so that's what inspired it. Me like just being so hungry for an acting job or a modeling job, and me being like, that actually sounds cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And so you went for Miss California USA first.
Well, first I went to like a recruiting seminar, and there I met Kristen Bradford. She owned this gown store at the time, and she is still a coach, but she had an upcoming pageant, Miss Santa Monica USA. So I signed up for that. I made it in the top 10. I won Miss Congeniality.
Very nice.
Right? And then after that, I was like, well, I obviously am not that good at this because I got top 10, and I kind of thought I was going to like nail this so I could go on to California. And basically the advice I got was like, you were spending too much time making friends and not enough time like focused on the end goal. And I was like, okay, apparently you can't win Miss Congeniality and the crown. So you gotta like pick.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. Are you going to be nice? Or are you going to be a competitor? That's kind of what you had to choose. Oh my gosh. That is hilarious.
And I don't mean like that you have to be a mean girl, but yeah, if you're spending all your energy like trying to make friends with everyone, how can you keep your eye on the prize?
That does make sense.
Just
So
saying.
you eventually won Miss Oklahoma USA though. So how did you find yourself there versus California?
Oh my gosh. So after Miss Santa Monica, where I lost, I later that same year got to compete for Miss Malibu and Miss Beverly Hills. It was like a joint pageant. I won Miss Beverly Hills USA and then got to go on to Miss California. I was first runner up.
Oh
And
my
like,
God.
so first runner up is such a hard place to be because you're like,
it's the first loser. That's what I always say. You're the first loser.
it was so close. So I was like, maybe this isn't for me. And then I got kind of like recruited to do Miss World America,
Right.
which wasn't even a pageant. It was literally just like a casting process. So I was like, I'm kind of good at auditions at this point. So I went through this casting process, got booked, and went to Bali to compete at Miss World, representing America. I had 10 days to prepare.
What? For
like,
Miss World?
I went from a casting to them being like, you're booked. And I was like, great, when is it? And they're like, you're leaving in 10 days. You need to like get these immunizations to go to Indonesia. You need to like create a introduction video for yourself. You need to do this like beauty with a purpose, like get all of your charitable work in one condensed video. It was, get your wardrobe together in their portion. There's 4 gowns required. So it was just like bananagrams.
No kidding. So for those who don't know, Miss World is, I would say, it is one of the top pageants in the world. There's Miss Universe and Miss World. To me, those are like the top 2. So you had 10 days to prepare everything to represent the USA, represent America at Miss World. What?
Yes. And I definitely learned so many things the hard way through that. Like I wore shoes that had kind of a soft bottom instead of that like rubber bottom that you need for stage. And I was slipping all over the place. I fell on stage. Like my intro moment, my hair is a hot mess because I literally had just fallen and gotten back up. And I like have way too much hairspray in my hair. And it's like, I looked crazy. So I learned so much. And I think like it kind of gave me the hunger and the confidence on like, dang, if I can pull that together in 10 days, like what if I put real energy into this and like work from the ground up, like Miss Oklahoma, USA, which is of course my home state and my represent Tulsa, my hometown.
So
and so
cool.
that felt right. I think I was supposed to lose California so I could learn all these lessons.
Yes.
And then like do it the right way.
Exactly. And really represent who you are, where you came from. And let's just quickly finish with the Miss World story. You finished top 20, didn't you, at Miss World? That's amazing. With 10 days of preparation, that's pretty incredible because there are usually over 100 delegates at Miss World, over 100 countries. So you were in the top 20. That's incredible.
Thank you. I that like, I'm such a competitor at heart that I was very disappointed in myself. Like, but again, I think I was just supposed to learn the lessons. When you do every pageant you compete in, you learn more about yourself and more about what I call like the business of pageantry. Like you learn how to game the system.
For sure.
And I feel like that's important. I think my like little ego got in my way after Miss California and after things that I was like, it's so political. Like they're like choosing the candidate before and all this, like, I don't know, garbage that can get in your head.
For sure.
And I realized after Miss World and after like reflecting on it that like I can whine about it or I can learn from it and be like, if they're judging us all the time in the entire 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 1 month that you're at a competition, then just do better.
Exactly.
Like don't be mad that they're not basing it all on the interview and stage portion. Just show up every day, even if it's exhausting. Like be your best self, turn it on, be kind to absolutely everyone. That should go regardless, but
for sure,
be kind to the interns because like they're gonna go tell the boss if you're being a diva and impossible to work with.
Absolutely. And some people need that reminder. So I think that was a good reminder. So you went from representing America at Miss World in 2013 and you
Yes.
won Miss Oklahoma USA 2015 to represent
Yes.
Oklahoma at Miss USA 2015, and you became the first woman from Oklahoma to win the national title. Is that right?
Yes.
And you won wearing this stunning, one of my favorite Miss USA gowns ever. It just reminds me of like the ultimate, like if I could choose a gown that was like Miss USA Barbie Queen, it would be the gown you wore. I loved it.
Totally.
Was it a Sherry Hill
Thank
gown?
you. It was Sherry Hill. Sherry's an Oklahoma girl. So
Amazing.
I obviously knew I was going to wear Sherry when I went to Oklahoma. And I had actually walked in Fashion Week for her that February. So like a few months before Miss USA. So I just felt such a connection to her and her gowns, and that gown. I mean, it was impossible not to be like, it was risky, but it was also impossible to not be like, yeah, this is a moment, like go big or go home.
I love that. And I think too, girls are afraid to take risks, especially in pageantry, because you want to fall into that safe space of what you think that they want. And then sometimes that doesn't really reflect sometimes who you are, because I feel like that gown, I mean, that probably embodied who you are, who you felt like you wanted to be and show up as. And it won you the title of Miss USA 2015. You earned your right to represent the USA at Miss Universe 2015. To me, the ultimate pageant. What was that like to represent USA at Miss Universe?
So I'm like that weird one that I know there's a few other pageant ladies out there that get this, but I was so singular minded on Miss USA. To me, that was always the goal. And I didn't know that much about Miss Universe, and I had the Miss World experience. So I think I was already like intimidated, and that was like a crazy experience in its own right, the world thing. So I was not excited to go compete at Miss Universe.
No way.
Was scared. I was nervous. I was exhausted because I had been Miss USA for 5-6 months at that point. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, honestly, I had a vision for my finals gown that I was like, it has to be a cape. Like, this is my one moment to do that. And the white I'd always wanted to do in pageants, and everyone had told me not to. And I finally was like, this is my turn. But no, I was so scared. I was so not ready. Like
really?
Emotionally.
You were not ready, but then you placed second runner up. That seems like you were pretty ready.
Well, I think because I am like such a competitor, like once I did get there, I was like, okay, turn it on. Let's go. Like, we've done this before. Let's do it again. But I wasn't like emotionally ready to be Miss Universe at all. I'm really glad that it went to Pia.
Yeah.
It was so meant for her.
There you go. Well, it is a destiny thing. I always think that is one woman's destiny to win. And I'm sure you've heard that from Paula Shugart. She always says that. When you were up there in the top 3, there's a couple photos of you standing with Pia, with Miss Columbia Ariadna. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. What was that like? What did it feel like to stand up there in the top 3 at Miss Universe?
It was so surreal. This is kind of fun talking about because it's been so long, but I was called, I think, 5th in the top 5. Like, I was the last one called, or in the top 10. There was whatever the round, and I truly thought that they were going on without me. Like, I did not think that my name. So there is like a picture of me, like in pure shock and joy. I can't remember which round it was. Was it 10-5 or 3? But I am just like, holy moly, it's me. Like, that was unreal. So just that. And then I don't feel like I nailed my top 5 question. I feel like I kind of was fumbly. And then, so it felt really good. Like, I was like, dang, like, so grateful I got to get
your question was something about firearms, wasn't it? It was like something.
Yes.
I remember, but you made it through to the top 3.
Yeah, it wasn't strong, and that was my own preparation fault. I think I thought it was going to be like a universe related question, and it was such an American specific question that I hadn't really been training, and I just couldn't get my words. I couldn't get my mouth around it. You know, when you're not, this is why you have to be interview coaching consistently, because when you don't have these talking points to hit, it is too tight of a time frame for you to just be like babbling. You gotta
100%.
like know your stuff.
And that is the make or break moment. When you are speaking on stage at something like Miss Universe, that right there is the moment that you're either going to continue on in the competition, win, or like you said, be left behind. But you made it to the top 3. You were standing there. You did the top 3 question and answer. I guess it was more of a statement. Once you finished that, did you feel like, okay, I'm going to win this thing? Okay, no, one of these other girls. Like, what were you thinking? Tell us about how you felt in that moment before they had the crowning.
Well, okay, so this is hilarious because I had my cape and I had decided I was going to do my top 5 question without the cape. It was like a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So someone had to, there's like stagehands kind of running in and retouching makeup and like giving you a sip of water with a straw in it. And all this, like there's a lot going on in commercial breaks. And so when I was taking off my cape, like it was almost like whoever, like it just hadn't gotten down the line that I was doing this. And so like it was hectic. So I took off my cape and did the questions, and then I wanted it back for like my final final look of the 3, and it was missing.
No.
So I was so stressed. I just remember I like had such dry mouth. I felt like I couldn't even speak, which I think is why I said I want to be the Mex Miss Universe.
Yes, you said the Mex. Yes.
I'm like, I want to be the Mex. I had such bad dry mouth from anxiety, and my cape was missing, and I was a hot mess express. I'm so glad I got through the question and ended up, I think, like creating some cohesive thought, at least better than my top 5 questions. So I wasn't like an embarrassment up there. But I don't know. I don't think I felt like I was going to win, but no matter how you feel in those moments, it's such high intensity that no matter what they say, it's like an emotional guttural reaction. And like when I wasn't in the top 2, I definitely had like like I failed.
Oh,
like geez. I definitely had that. You can see that on my face.
You can see it on
like
your face. Like, yes, you look disappointed for sure. But I mean, that's such a big moment that it's understandable, right? Like the disappointment is understandable. But you handled it graciously. You didn't look mad. You looked disappointed.
No, and I wasn't mad. I was honored. I always, for me, Ariana and Pia were front runners before we even got to Miss Universe. In my mind, I was like, yeah, they're what's up. So that wasn't shocking to be, for them to be the final 2 standing. So it was more just like disappointed in myself. You always want to walk off stage like, I did the best I could have done.
Right.
And I was so true to myself, and I was so present, and I didn't feel that way about myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. And when you were standing there, though, obviously a little bit disappointed, but when you saw those 2 girls standing, Colombia, Philippines, you're waiting for one of them to be crowned. Did you think to yourself, okay, it's going to be Colombia. Did you have a feeling of which girl was going to win?
No, I really didn't. They both were so strong and so different that for me, it could have gone either way. I was,
right. Exactly.
It made sense. Like it wasn't shocking when Ariana was crowned.
Right.
It was only shocking that a mistake had been made. Like,
exactly.
Like, oh.
So then, I mean, I remember watching this. So many people can probably remember Miss Columbia. She's waving the Colombian flag. People are cheering. But things are happening. The girls aren't running forward. And then Steve Harvey walks out and says, I have to apologize. What were you thinking in that moment?
It was, the stakes are just so high. And anyone that's been on these stages, even at a state level or a local level, like the energy of how many months and
years,
the energy of how much has been preparing and coming to this moment, and then for there to be a mistake, it was so intense. And I literally, I do remember feeling instinctively like I wanted to run off stage. Like that was just like the level of just like anxiety. Like I just was like, what mistake? Like, please don't take a crown from someone that has a crown. Like,
my.
Don't do this. But of course, I'm then at this point next to Pia, and I do get to look over and see this other incredibly deserving, confident, strong woman that I have admired since before showing up at Miss Universe. And I'm like, dang girl, it's you. I didn't say that, but like it's cool. It's she unfortunately didn't get to have the crowning moment she deserved either,
right.
Like it's
It's sad, but it all worked out. Both of those women they've both gone on to have very successful careers. All of the top 3, which is very exciting, and you all deserve the crown for different reasons, because you're all very inspiring, wonderful women. I want to talk about something you have mentioned a few times now, your feelings of anxiety, having anxiety. When you were Miss USA, I guess even now, but maybe more so in your pageant career, you're in the spotlight all the time. When you're having those feelings of anxiety, you're maybe having an anxiety attack. How did you handle that? How did you overcome that? How did you battle through that to still show up as yourself and show the world who you were, even when, battling internally?
I think through a lot of like prayer and meditation, I meditated the heck out of the Miss Oklahoma pageant and the Miss USA pageant. Literally during Miss USA, the competition for those 2 or 3 weeks, however long it was, when we would have breaks and everyone would run to get coffee or whatever, I would go run to the corner of the auditorium, put my headphones in, and meditate.
Wow.
Because, sorry, there's a plane going over. That's really loud.
Can you hear it?
But yeah, so I think I was very cognizant of the fact that what you're doing in these competitions is not like within the normal human experience. So the way that you prepare and handle that has to be very high level, taking care of yourself. And so I think like for me, that was one of the tools that really helped me. And I think as Miss USA, I think I struggled more with anxiety and stuff. And once you kind of get into spin out mode, it's harder to like rein it back in. So I think, my year as Miss USA was definitely very hard on my mental health, and I wasn't using the tools that I use in my daily life. Like I see a therapist on a regular basis, and I meditate almost every single day, and I pray every day. And I think these tools are really grounding for me and important. And I think as Miss USA, I kind of felt like, oh, I'm so busy. But like the busier you are, the more you need to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And that was something I wish I would have done better.
Right. I was going to say, so what piece of advice would you give yourself? But that's obviously what you would tell yourself, is to take care of yourself no matter how busy you are. Is that a piece of advice you would give to anyone starting in pageants? What would be your piece of advice for someone just entering the pageant space?
Yeah, I think that, and just stay true to yourself. There's going to be so many voices. Like so many people told me the reason I lost Miss California was like that I didn't have a boob job. And like,
oh my gosh,
crazy stuff that's so not real. And everyone, has opinions about like how fit you need to be or how whatever. I got so much feedback, and you definitely have to like zone in to like, who am I? What's true for me, not what's true for other people or what's worked for other people or what's worked even for like the coaches you're working with. If they're using a formula that's worked for this girl, like I would run in the other direction. That's 100%. Like not a coach you want. You want a coach that is looking at you and reminding you of how powerful you are as you are. You don't need to go try to be anything other than the youest you can be. And so I think that's my advice for girls in this, like, take care of yourself, listen to yourself. You know intuitively in your heart and your soul what is going to be best for you. And you cannot let the opinions of the fans and the naysayers get in your way and get in your head. Easier said than done, but that's the advice.
I love that. That is such a great piece of advice for anyone in the pageant space. That resonates with me so much. I actually remember going to compete at Miss Supranational representing Canada, and I was told that if I didn't get eyelash extensions, the judges would notice in interview and I would never place. And I placed as first runner-up. I was like, eyelash extensions? The judges are going to notice? Excuse me?
I don't understand.
I don't understand either. But anyways, you and I also have had a lot of conversations about self-love, body confidence, trying to fit the norm, which is exactly what you're saying right now. How do you tell yourself and show up as you are without falling under the pressures of others? Like when people told you that you didn't win because you didn't have a boob job, did you ever kind of sit and think, maybe I should get it done? How do you
Yes. Yes. When people tell me stuff, it is a lifelong process of being like, filter it. Is it true for me? No, that's not true for me. Great. Let it go. But I think, especially at that phase of my life, like I was, 25, I think, competing for Miss Oklahoma.
And you were 26 at Miss USA for sure.
Okay, so I must have been 26 at Oklahoma as well. But so I was in a phase of my life. I'm a late bloomer, y'all. Like I was in a phase that I was really just then learning about self-love. I was just then learning how to like really tune into myself. So yeah, it's so hard when people give you feedback about stupid eyelash extensions and boob jobs and like what weight you're supposed to be. That's not real.
Right. It's funny to hear you say, though, I was a late bloomer at 26. I don't think that's something that we hear very often, a late bloomer. But speaking of that, I actually do remember following Miss Universe 2015 and seeing people comment that they thought that you were too old. And wasn't Pia Wurtzbach also 26? She won the title at 26. She was 25 or 26, I think.
I think she's 1 year younger than me.
So maybe 25.
November babies. Yeah. Well, this is funny because the next year they actually made the age limit a little higher, so you could be a little older. But I was, the older side of the age limit. And I think what I learned from all of that is like when you have the commenters and they hit a nerve. Like, I think I already had a fear. I had been modeling for 10 years at that point, and people had been telling me for 5 years how old I was, agents and bookers. And yeah, I'd been lying about my age for a lot of modeling jobs.
Oh my gosh.
One client found out my real age and fired me. So like you get into it. Yes. You get into this weird place of feeling like shame for aging when it literally, like, who cares how old I am as long as I have the look, like book me or don't,
right.
Like, why do we have to play these games where
that
you feel like
so ridiculous?
A 21-year-old, like why?
Versus being maybe 25. Like, oh my God. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So people like kind of started commenting like when I won Miss USA, like the oldest Miss USA, and then my beautiful teen Catherine Hike. What? I'm saying her name so horribly. I'm sorry, Catherine. I know your name. It's blank. The pronunciation is blanking, but she was the youngest teen. And so we were the largest age gap ever. We were like 11 years different. So I think people would kind of like make side comments about how old I was and how old I looked next to Catherine, which fair, we were 11 years different.
And she's teen.
She was 15.
Yeah, and Miss Teen USA. You're Miss USA.
So I just had a lot of that. And I think because I wasn't so confident, I felt insecure about it, I fed into that. And if you give energy to your haters and your commenters in the comment section, they feed off of it.
They love it.
Oh, if you want to shut them up, like, don't let it phase you. Because which I didn't know at the time. But I would be like, I'm not old. I'm 26. Like I like would feed back. And then they like really spiraled and they would call me like grandma. And I learned grandma in every single language during my Miss Universe chapter.
Grandma.
And they would put like old lady emoji next to my face. And you experienced this because they would pull pictures of me that were literally like that, like the picture that doesn't have a flash on it, that like in between moment of your face where you're like, whatever.
Oh my gosh.
And they would post it and say like, look how old and decrepit she is, whatever. But you experienced that in a different way that people were trying, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, to this day, people will comment the pig emoji on my Instagram, on posts of me. And it's just, it's actually kind of sad because, as I always say, and you have said this too, when people do stuff like that, it's a reflection of them. They're trying to just project their insecurities onto us. But to put grandma and a grandma emoji to a 26-year-old, are you kidding me? It is just so absurd. And go ahead.
Now.
It is funny. It hurts at the time. I laughed too. Like I actually responded to someone's and they put like the pig nose emoji and I put the pig face emoji back to them. Just because before I would have wanted to fire back and be like, I'm not, big, this and that, but that's what they want. They want a battle. They want to fight. So for you to now ignore that, I feel like that's probably like a good piece of advice? Is that what would you, looking back, what would you now do with troll comments, troll accounts, troll posts? Like, how would you handle that now, knowing what you know now?
You know what? Pia taught me the best tip ever. So I didn't know this until at like the end of my Miss USA range and after Miss Universe and all that. But Pia, when people would like hate on her, she would follow them back. She would like their photos. And like, it takes time.
Oh, for sure.
These people would turn into her fans.
Absolutely.
When they had been so hateful and mean. And I was like, Pia, why are you even taking the time? And she was like, because they just like, we all just want to be seen, and we all want love. And if they can't get your attention by saying like, love you or comment back, then they can get your attention by being mean. This is not good. I'm not recommending anyone do this, but the bullying part, but she would just kind of turn it around and be like, I see you.
That's amazing.
You're beautiful.
That is honestly probably one of the best pieces of advice, because a lot of times people who comment troll things, like, they're unhappy, and unhappy people post these kinds of things. Happy people don't try to bring other people down. So I love that, to turn it around and make them feel seen. And actually, you saying that does remind me, there have been times where I've responded to somebody, whether it's just with an emoji or something, if they say something hateful, and they'll respond with hearts, and they're so excited. They can't believe I responded to them. Just with what you're saying, they want to be seen. They want to be noticed, because maybe they don't feel seen in their normal life.
Yeah. And it's actually helps make people that enrage me more relatable.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, it makes you feel like sad for them, that they feel like they have to be so negative and toxic to get attention. That makes my like heart hurt. Like, I'm so sorry to feel that. And so, yeah, like sometimes I'm not saying like, I don't want to encourage bullies by saying this.
No.
But sometimes if you have people that are being really toxic, if you can kind of just, instead of fighting back, because that gives them attention, just show them some love, send, even if it's not actually following them, just send loving energy their way.
For sure.
And then block and mute them.
Absolutely.
To protect your
Absolutely.
You don't need to like keep receiving that.
No.
That's not good.
No, because ultimately we have to protect ourselves and keep ourselves feeling good in our day-to-day life. And something that you talked a lot about too on your social media is being you're a perfectionist, a recovering perfectionist. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that. Do you feel like some of the hate that you've received would feed into you feeling like you needed to be perfect?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. I think, I've been a lifelong perfectionist. Like, it's my coping mechanism. Like, I did it in school. When I was 16, I developed an eating disorder off the back of my agent at the time was like, lose 2 inches off your hips. And I was like, okay. And I made my New Year's resolution to not eat anything bad. And then that's not possible, right. But then you can get really crazy, because then what is good food and what is bad food?
I know,
and
the labeling.
Got very toxic. But that, I think, came from like this core need of like being perfect and not feeling like who I was enough. And this is still, I have on my mirror right now, you are enough, because this is still something I work on every single day. I'm 32 years old. So I just want to encourage people, like, don't feel like self-love is a destination. It's a lifelong journey. But yeah, I do feel like a little perfectionist in recovery, and I have to like check myself and again, like filter people's feedback as like true for me, not true for me. Not true for me. Let's like leave it, let it go.
I love that. And I love that you said too that self-love is a journey. It isn't a destination, because I think people, like with anything, they want this magic answer. They want this magical piece of advice that's going to just make them feel like they love themselves every single day. And it really is a journey. Every day is different. Life throws interesting things our way. The pandemic we're in right now, we're all experiencing different things we've never experienced before. Our lives have changed so much no matter where we are in the world. So no wonder the way we feel about ourselves may also be changing. It could be for the good, the bad, So self-love is really a journey. We really have to kind of change how we view ourselves, how we're able to make ourselves feel good depending on what is going on in life. It's really a roller coaster.
Yeah. And I think you know a lot about this as well, because your body has changed through the years of your modeling work and like being a mom and all, like you've like gone through the waves. I think I learned through the years that I was finding it easier to love myself when I was meeting beauty standards that I was attached to. So I was like, that's not real self-love.
Wow,
Like
interesting.
I had to learn the hard way that like, it's not self-love to say that I like loved myself and my body on the Miss USA stage. That's not self-love. Like you've got to love yourself, the highs, the lows, the in-betweens, the bloated days, the acne days, like all, like you can't just love yourself with full makeup and a ring light and like a cute sweater. Like that is not self-love.
I love that.
You got to like learn how to love the ebbs and flows, right? And I'm still working on it.
Of course. And I think we all are. I notice for myself as well with Instagram, I almost always post stories without any of the filters. I don't think there's anything wrong with the filters. But when I'm not wearing makeup, when I'm, don't have my hair done or whatever, I do feel like I want to put a filter on because I want to see the filtered version of myself, which is perhaps wearing makeup and whatever. So those filters do that. And I think it's actually quite sad to see that almost every like creator I follow, they all use filters. And when I see someone, you don't really seem to use them much. When I see someone who isn't using filters, and it's honestly to each their own, totally fine. I think when I see someone not using one, I'm like, wow, what a breath of fresh air. That's so nice. And there's a mix, but do you feel like social media, has it made you more aware of how you view yourself?
Yeah. My ultimate goal with social media, as grateful as I am for it, and especially this year, through this pandemic, like it has become my sole source of income. So I can't like hate it, but I'm so excited for the day where we all just toss our phones into the river and live. That's what I'm looking forward to. Whenever that comes, whenever we realize we don't have to live to be seen and we just can like live, that's the goal. I have to like create my own boundaries around that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, like some dried. But on the filter piece, I thank you for even saying that. Lately, I've been recognizing I was using a lot of filters because I haven't been doing my hair and makeup much during like pandemic because I don't go out as much into the world. And so I was using a lot of filters because it kind of made me feel like, oh, this is makeup. But over time, I realized I really wasn't liking it when I didn't have a filter on. Oh. And I realized that was the trigger on like, dang, I got to stop. Because this is not just hurting other people who are seeing this, like young girls thinking like, this is what I look like with no makeup, because that's not real. But it's also hurting me, like ultimately.
Of course, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I'm trying to like let go. I'm not perfect. I literally like said I was letting go, one day, and then the next day I felt like a hot mess, and I had like a huge zit, and I was like, blur me, please.
And that's okay though too, right? I think that's part of the journey. That's part of it, is that it isn't always roses and rainbows and feeling great about yourself. It is okay to feel self-conscious if there's something happening with your skin or your body. That's normal. It's just, how do you overcome that feeling and let go of it maybe the next day or maybe a couple days later? It's not continuing to live with it day after day.
Yes. Yeah. Like definitely, taking breaks and embracing who we really are is good.
I love that. Sorry, go
ahead. And when you go filter free, I find, and I feel like when I look at your comments, when your most authentic posts are the posts that women are like, yes, queen, like when you don't try to like fit this perfection, people are drawn to it. It's
absolutely
beautiful.
Right. I think it's just more relatable in the sense of the filtered world. It just has its pros and cons, but I think being relatable in the sense of sharing the things that we're vulnerable with. And this leads me into, you have really opened up about some childhood trauma that you've experienced. You've put yourself out there in a vulnerable space to share those things. What made you want to be vulnerable and know that maybe your story was resonating with others? Like, what, I guess, motivated you to share some of that?
I think it's been an important part of my healing to not feel like I was carrying secrets. And I think for a long time, I felt like I was just raised in a home and a community where there was a lot of like shaming and there was a lot of like gossip. And so I felt like I was raised to be like, we don't talk about our problems and we like don't cry in public and all of this stuff that I feel like kind of shut me down as a human. And it's been a lifelong journey as all of these things are, to learn like that's not who I am at my core level. Like I am someone that my vulnerability is like my truest self. And I can't like live with that piece of me shut down because it just creates like more shame and suffering for myself. So, yeah, like a few years ago, what year was it? This year has put everything in like a weird perspective. 2 years ago. So when I was 30, when I hit my 30th birthday, at the time, there was like this big case going on in the US, that Brett Kavanaugh was getting, sworn in as a Supreme Court justice. And he had been accused of, assaulting a young woman in college, Christine Blasey Ford. Again, I'm sorry if I'm saying names wrong. I'm horrible at names, but, and she testified, and the response from so many people was like, why 30 years later would you just now tell people this? Why did you wait 30 years? And
why is that even a question?
Yeah, it hit me because I was like, well, there's a lot of reasons I didn't tell people. And granted, like I had to tell a doctor, I told a teacher, I told my parents, I told my, close friends, like people had known what had happened to me. I talked to therapists, but I didn't report it to the authorities. And I didn't ever talk about it like publicly throughout my pageants or anything like that. And I so commend the women that are strong enough to share their stories, but also don't feel like you have to share your story as part of like a strategy or anything. Like just, I wasn't in a place of healing where I could be sharing this stuff because I was still in survival mode and still had PTSD. So anyway, I'm getting like
no, this is important.
I'm like talking around the point, but when I heard so many people criticize Christine Ford for, coming forward 30 years later, I had to sit with why I hadn't told anyone. And I literally like made a list of every single reason why I had kept this quiet. And I looked at that list and I was like, every single point, it was a full piece of paper. Every single point was true, but every single point is not true anymore. Like I just had finally gotten to a place in my life where I had my own sense of safety in the world, that I didn't have to be scared of the man that had hurt me. Mm-hmm. So it took me a long time and therapy and support to get there. But I finally looked at that list and I was like, I can't be quiet anymore. And I wrote a tweet and said like why I hadn't shared. And I think I had said that like the reason I didn't share was because I was busy surviving.
Wow.
And that's like what it felt like. And then the response from that, so many women responded and they were like, thank you for sharing. Like I really needed to know that, they were closer to the event than I was. At this time, I was like almost 12 years after the event. So I got supported by women and I felt like this tribe around me of like, I'm strong enough, and I've got to speak for us. And
Wow.
I've got to put it out there, and I've got to share. And I was able to report the crime to my local authorities and was able to face my rapist in court.
Wow.
And he pled guilty,
Wow.
which was like a huge sense of validation, because I think for years I had kind of felt like, does he know how bad this was? Like, I don't know.
You questioned yourself.
I
Because
questioned my version of reality.
Mhm.
Like, I was like, did this happen, or
Right.
was it like a nightmare? Like,
oh my gosh.
over time, you start like in any traumatic event, like there's a surrealism, or for me, there's a surrealism that was out of body, that I was like, did this really happen how I remember it? And it was so validating for him to say, like, yeah, this happened. And he took accountability, and that helped me like set down a road of even more healing and like letting go.
Wow. Well, I want to share this. It was on your Instagram. You said, when the world is feeling dark, we all must remember that the sun always finds a way to rise again. I thought that, like, it gives me goosebumps saying it. It gave me goosebumps when I read it. I think that is so incredible. And the fact that you shared that, I mean, it's just amazing. So thank you. Thank you for being so vulnerable and open and sharing that, because I'm sure you've touched lives of thousands of women who have maybe felt like they may never share their story, but they feel connected to you because they know that they're not alone.
Yeah. And no one, you never have, you don't owe anyone your story.
No.
Anyone that's listening. But I certainly was inspired by Christine Ford. Her strength gave me strength. And I think if that feels true for you, if that resonates with you, then like there is a lot of freedom in sharing your story, how, when, and with whom you want to. You don't have to post about it on social media, but if it would help to share with certain friends or family members or safe people in your life, then do that, because you don't need to carry all that shit alone. It is not your shame to carry. It's not your fault. And you don't need to be carrying that alone at all.
That's amazing. I love that. Well, thank you for being so open and for sharing that. And you say that your proudest accomplishment is healing your heart, which is exactly what you were just talking about. Let's shift to a different accomplishment that you've experienced, which is maybe a little bit more lighthearted. We'll get back on that train. I think it's important for us to go up and down with this and be able to share all kinds of stories.
Life, right?
That's exactly right. And that's what we're here to do. So you were actually featured in Sports Illustrated. You modeled for Sports Illustrated. What was that like? Like, take us through that journey. Tell us how that happened. I know I don't want to make this seem like that's something that it validates you and who you are, but a lot of people look up to that, and a lot of people think that's amazing, inspiring, incredible. So just take us through that. What was that like?
Yeah, I think that had been such a huge goal of mine. I'm a big magazine person. Like, I grew up, my parents got their yearly subscription to Sports Illustrated, and I would, when the swimsuit issue came, I would steal it from like a young age. My poor parents.
I love it.
I just thought, like, these women are so beautiful, but they're also just so strong and fearless and confident, and all of these things that I aspired to be. And that was something I always wanted. And in modeling, you hear no so many times. And I would tell agents that this was my biggest goal, and they would be like, honey, no, you're never going to do that. And even when I won Miss USA, I told agents, like, I really want to try to, get in Sports Illustrated. And they would be like, you are way too old. You are never going to be in Sports Illustrated. And like, I heard that so many times, I cannot even describe. And so it became kind of like a sticking point of me wanting not just to prove to myself, but to prove to all of those doubters and haters. Like, I really did. I wanted so badly, which I should not, I guess, be our main point of motivation, but whatever, it helped me. Just wanted to prove people wrong and not let anyone define what I could or couldn't do other than MJ Day, who was the one that cast me in that magazine, and like, let her make the call. Y'all don't say what she's gonna say.
Absolutely.
Like, let her decide. And that, for me, I think it was a huge like mountaintop moment of my modeling career, and kind of helped me like tie a bow and wrap it up and be like, I have done what I really wanted to do in the modeling world, and now I can kind of like shift and focus on new energy, and focus on acting.
Cool.
But it also helped me like, it helped me heal in my own way. Like, it helped me be like, this is my body, and I'm going to show it how I want to show it. And I'm going to like embrace it how I want to embrace it. And you're not going to tell me if I need to gain weight, lose weight, be whatever. Sports Illustrated does not do that. They literally are like, don't change. Like, I'm not kidding. They're like, when you go to the casting, they're like, please do not like start working out to be in our magazine. Like, don't change your eating habits. Don't, like, they're like, if anything, eat a burger. Like, go eat a burger. Like, they're just so not one to like body shame or like put any kind of like energy on you that you need to, you know, be on some crazy fast before you.
Right, which is amazing though. And I think that's why I wanted to talk about it, is because from what I understand, Sports Illustrated really seems to embrace women as they are and showcase women without crazy edits and filters and all these things. They want to show women in a different light than some other big companies in that kind of industry who seem to focus on certain body types and stuff. So I just think that is so cool. And to be honest, I think if part of your motivation is to prove people wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes that gives us that kick of motivation to be like, you think I'm like not good enough or I'm never going to do things with my life? Let me show you. Let me show up and show you. You don't need to say anything to those people. You just have to show them what you've done. So I love that. I think that is so cool. What an amazing, I think that's just, yeah, that is pretty darn amazing. And Sports Illustrated, they featured so many other inspiring, amazing women. So to be in that lineup, for you to be among those women is so amazing, and it's well deserved.
It felt good. I'm not gonna lie, it felt good. And I was in the Sports Illustrated swim search, so I wasn't like, you know, cover model or whatever. But this is the thing about manifesting. You gotta manifest exactly what you want. Because I had manifested, and I have like the old journals to prove it. I had said I want to be Miss USA. I never said Miss Universe, so like, don't get it twisted. If you want to be Miss Universe, you better write in your manifestations, I want to be Miss Universe, underlined. And I also manifested I want to be in Sports Illustrated, which I was.
So that is like, so cool.
But you got to be clear with the universe, because if you're like, I want to be in television, but you're not clear that like you want to be the lead of a show, then like you're probably going to get a great job working as a PA on set on some TV show. You know, like, you got to be clear. Like, what do you really want? What's the thing? What's the ticket? So yeah, if you really want to be a like rookie that goes on for years of Sports Illustrated, you better say, I want to be a rookie, or I want to be on the cover, or whatever that is. Manifest exactly what you want so you can get what you want. But I manifested the way I manifested, and I got what I deserved, and what I said, and it was not in my cards to like win the swim search, because I had never manifested about a swim search. I didn't know that was going to be a thing.
Yes, exactly. I know what you're getting at, but still amazing nonetheless. And I think that I'm glad that you're saying get specific with what you want, your goals, because a lot of times people will see things on, say, social media, or they'll see you as Miss USA or the things you've done, and they'll think, how do I get there? How do I be that? And it's not just about what you've done. It's each of us have our own goals, our own things that we want to do. But I think people struggle with getting specific and really understanding what they want from life. So for you, what piece of advice would you give to someone who they want to achieve things, they want to do things, they want to be in the spotlight, or they just want great things for themselves? What advice would you give to them?
Get really, really clear. I'm a huge believer in manifestation. Read The Secret if you aren't well versed in manifestation, and read The Alchemist, which talks a lot about destiny. Because I think tapping into like your core purpose and listening to yourself is really key. Like, I shouldn't manifest to like be a CNN anchor, because that doesn't like actually attune to who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to like be aware of who you are and what really matters to you and what like pulls in your heartstrings. And then you got to do the work. Like
Absolutely.
that's like hard part. And I'm not one that's like, I am, my friend says she's pro flow over hustle. And I am so all about that. Like, I don't think you have to like work yourself into the ground and not sleep and always be on your phone. No, I think when you know what you're meant to do in this world, you are going to go achieve that, like go on that path. But I don't think that you can just like sit at home on your couch and wait for it to come to you. Like, I think you've got to like learn from people. I don't think anyone has any type of success alone. You got to like, if it's pageants, you got to get a really good interview coach. You've got to look at other people that have done well in these big pageants. Like I think it's really, when I got into pageants, I was very naive on like pageant history, like former Miss USAs and stuff. Like learn who, like know your elders. Like,
there you go. It's true.
Like, not because you need to model after them at all, but just to have a greater understanding of what the job is, what the competition's like, what kind of things get thrown at you on stage. Like, learn the process and be open to finding good mentors and coaches and people, no matter what field you're trying to get into. Like, you're never going to become an actress if you don't take an acting class. Like, get into class and keep working that muscle over and over and over until it clicks. Like, that's just the way of life. You gotta work for it.
You gotta put in the work. And I think that's what so many people are afraid of, is doing the work. I want to thank you so much for coming on. You've been amazing. I want to leave on one note. What advice would you give your younger self?
I wish I had worked on the "you are enough" earlier. That took a long time. So I think I would just, if I got to flash back and talk to young Olivia, I would just tell her every single day, "You are enough." I would write it all over her mirror and her notebooks that she took to school and all of that stuff. You are enough, you are enough, you are enough. And once you know that, it is so much easier to tune into your unlimited potential as a human being on this earth and what you can accomplish and whose lives you can touch. All of that is easy when you recognize that who you are is enough.
I love that. That was so beautifully said. You are such an inspiration. You're so incredible. So thank you so much for sharing all that, being vulnerable and sharing your story. I can't thank you enough. This is gonna, I think, inspire so many people, not just women, but so many people. So thank you so much.
You're so kind. I appreciate you talking to me. Thanks for having me.
It was wonderful.